Hey there, just a heads up, this episode of the Judo Science Podcast was created with help from AI. Some of the voices you'll hear are synthetic, but the ideas come from real research and real judo.
Ready to dive into the world of Olympic judo training? We've got some great research to dig into today.
Yeah, should be fascinating. One paper really breaks down the science, and the other gets into the mental side of things.
So we're going to explore what it takes to get to the very top of this incredibly demanding sport.
Can't wait. Judo is this amazing blend of physical skill, mental toughness, and strategy all rolled into one.
Absolutely. And it's kind of wild to think that scientists have been studying judo for over a century.
It's true.
You know, even before it was in the Olympics, there was already a dedicated association for medical studies on judo back in 1922.
Yeah, Jigoro Kano, the guy who founded judo, he was way ahead of his time.
It seems like it.
He really understood that to master judo, you gotta have a deep understanding of the human body and what it can do.
Makes sense.
So that association, it shows how much he believed in using science to improve sports.
So what sparked this early interest in the science behind judo?
Well, Japan was dominant early on, and other countries wanted to figure out why.
You got to see that.
They started studying Japanese training methods, trying to crack the code of their success,
Competition driving innovation.
Exactly.
And that scientific curiosity has just kept growing,
Yeah.
leading to some really interesting research.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like in genetics.
For sure. One area that's gotten a lot of attention is the ACE gene and how it affects endurance in judo athletes.
Okay, break down this ACE gene for me.
Sure.
What is it and how does it impact performance?
So the ACE gene, it plays a big part in controlling blood pressure and how well your heart and blood vessels work.
Okay.
And it turns out there are different variations of this gene.
Right.
Researchers have found that elite judo athletes are more likely to have the I allele than the average person.
So does that mean people with that I allele might have a natural advantage when it comes to all the intense demands of judo?
You got it.
Interesting.
That genetic predisposition, it could mean they're better at using oxygen, their heart's more efficient, and ultimately they have more stamina during those tough matches.
Fascinating. So are athletes who don't have that specific gene variation just out of luck?
Not at all. While genes can definitely influence your potential, training and environment also play a huge role in how you perform.
Makes sense.
Actually, knowing an athlete's genetic makeup can be super helpful.
How so?
Coaches can use that info to create training programs that maximize their strengths and work on any weaknesses they might have.
So it's like you've got this puzzle, and genetics gives you some pieces, but training, nutrition, and the mental game, they all help complete the picture.
Exactly. It's this intricate dance between nature and nurture.
I love that analogy. All right, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the physical attributes that are key for success in judo.
Sure.
What sets these athletes apart from, say, marathon runners?
Judo requires this unique combo of strength, power, endurance, and flexibility.
Wow, so it's like the ultimate physical challenge.
You could say that.
So how do researchers actually evaluate and measure these qualities in judo athletes? Is it just the usual fitness tests?
While those standard tests give us some insights, judo is so specific that we need a more specialized approach.
I see.
For example, researchers look at VO2 max, which tells us about an athlete's aerobic capacity.
For those who might not know, what exactly is VO2 max?
Basically, it's a measure of how much oxygen your body can use when you're exercising really hard.
Okay.
It's a key indicator of how fit your heart and lungs are and how much endurance you have.
Gotcha.
Judo athletes, particularly at the Olympic level, they tend to have impressive VO2 max values.
That makes sense. What about the explosive power they need for those incredible throws? How do you measure that?
We often use the upper body Wingate test for that.
What does that tell us?
It measures anaerobic power, which is the ability to generate quick bursts of energy.
I see.
Judo requires a balance between explosive movements and sustained grappling, so both aerobic and anaerobic fitness are crucial.
So it's not just about raw strength.
Nope. It's also about being able to move quickly and powerfully.
What other physical traits are super important for judo?
Grip strength is a big one.
Oh, right. I can see why.
Think about it, controlling your opponent, executing those throws, and staying balanced. It all depends on a strong grip.
You're right. I bet grip endurance is just as important, considering how dynamic judo matches are.
Absolutely. Researchers use tests like the Special Judo Fitness Test, or SJFT, to look at strength endurance specifically in the context of judo movements.
It sounds like evaluating judo athletes is really complex.
It is.
You have to go beyond those basic measures to truly understand what's going on.
Definitely. It's about understanding the unique biomechanics and physiology of the sport.
Right.
And that understanding is what's led to more specific training methods designed to optimize performance in judo.
That makes a lot of sense. We've covered so much already, the history of judo science, genetics, the unique physical demands.
Yeah, it's all connected.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore. The relative age effect, or RAE.
Right. The RAE is super interesting, and it can have a huge impact on athlete development, even at the Olympic level.
Before we get into that, can you explain what the relative age effect is for those who might not be familiar?
Sure. The relative age effect basically means that athletes born earlier in a selection year are more likely to make it to the elite levels.
Interesting.
Those born in the first few months of the year often have a developmental edge over those born later in the year.
So if you're born in January, you might be physically more mature and athletically more developed than someone born in December of the same year.
Exactly. And even the small difference can snowball into bigger opportunities, more training, and ultimately more success in sports.
That's pretty wild. But how does this apply to judo, especially at the Olympic level? Wouldn't you expect this effect to disappear as athletes reach the top?
You'd think so, but research shows that the RAE actually persists even in Olympic judo.
Really?
Yep. For example, one study found that a higher percentage of heavyweight Olympic judo athletes were born in the first 3 months of the year compared to later in the year.
Wow, so even at the very peak of the sport, you still see this effect. What are the implications of that?
It makes us think about how we identify and develop talent.
No.
Are we overlooking some amazing athletes just because of when they were born? And how can we create training systems that nurture talent regardless of birth month?
That's a really important point. It's about creating a level playing field and making sure everyone has the chance to reach their full potential.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that development isn't always linear.
Right.
Athletes might peak at different times depending on all sorts of factors, and their relative age is definitely one of them.
This has been so insightful. We've covered so much ground, from the history of judo science to the role of genetics, the physical demands, and now this concept of the relative age effect.
And we're just getting started.
I'm excited to learn more about how the competitive landscape itself has influenced how judo athletes train.
That's where things get even more interesting. Stay tuned as we dive into how rule changes, scoring systems, and the quest for ranking points have shaped the way these athletes train.
We were just talking about the relative age effect and how it can impact judo athletes.
Yeah, it's a fascinating phenomenon for sure.
Now, I'm curious about how the competitive landscape itself has changed over time, and how that's affected training.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Judo has undergone some major transformations, especially since becoming an Olympic sport.
Right.
And those changes have directly impacted how athletes train and prepare.
What are some of the biggest changes you've seen?
Well, one major shift has been the standardized 4-minute match duration,
Okay.
with the possibility of that golden score period if there's a tie.
Right.
This puts a tremendous demand on both the aerobic and anaerobic energy systems.
Makes sense.
Athletes need to be incredibly well-rounded to succeed.
So it's not just about explosive power anymore.
Right.
Strategic pacing and endurance, those become super important for those longer matches and potential overtime scenarios.
Absolutely. Another significant development was the introduction of the IJF World Ranking List back in 2009.
Okay. Yeah.
This ranking system has added a whole new layer of complexity to training and competition strategies.
I imagine athletes are now constantly focused on earning ranking points,
Oh, absolutely.
which probably influences their training schedules and the tournaments they choose to participate in.
Exactly. The pressure to maintain a high ranking throughout that Olympic qualification period,
Right.
it's really intensified training regimens and forced athletes to be more strategic in how they plan their competitions.
So it's like this balancing act, managing training intensity, peak performance, and then choosing the right competitions all at once.
It definitely is. And speaking of challenges, we can't ignore the issue of rapid weight loss in judo.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's a topic that raises concerns about athlete health and well-being.
We touched on it briefly earlier, but could you tell us more about why rapid weight loss is so common in judo and what the potential downsides are.
Sure.
Yeah.
The main reason athletes do it, or RWL, as it's often called,
Right.
is to compete in a lower weight class.
Oh, okay.
They believe that by being bigger and stronger within a specific category, it gives them a competitive advantage.
I can see the logic there, but what are the risks associated with this practice?
Well, RWL can disrupt the crucial tapering phase of training, leading to dehydration, nutrient deficiencies, and even the use of some pretty risky weight-cutting methods.
Yeah, those can be dangerous.
It's a serious concern, and researchers are still studying the long-term health implications.
So it's kind of a gamble then,
It is.
with potential consequences for both performance and long-term health.
You hit the nail on the head.
Okay,
The pursuit of victory should never come at the expense of an athlete's well-being.
I agree.
We need to focus more on promoting safe and sustainable weight management practices.
Absolutely. Now, I'm curious about the actual dynamics of a judo match.
Okay?
How do researchers study what happens physiologically during those intense bouts,
Yeah.
given how difficult it is to take real-time measurements?
Well, that's where techniques like time motion analysis come in.
How does that work?
Researchers break down match footage to analyze movement patterns, energy expenditure, and tactical decision-making.
So it's like a forensic investigation of a judo match
Pretty much.
to understand the physiological demands at each stage.
Exactly. And in controlled lab settings, researchers can simulate match conditions and use specialized equipment to collect even more detailed data.
Fascinating. So what have these studies revealed about the physical demands of a judo match?
Well, they've shown that judo is incredibly taxing on the cardiovascular system.
Okay.
Athletes operate near their maximum heart rate throughout a match.
Wow.
It highlights the intense cardiovascular strain they're under.
That makes sense considering all the movement, grappling, and explosive throws.
Right. And here's a surprising finding. While anaerobic energy is essential for those bursts of power, the aerobic system actually plays a dominant role throughout the match.
Really? I would have assumed anaerobic energy was more important.
It's a common misconception.
Okay.
You see, the need to recover quickly between those high-intensity efforts and then maintain performance over the entire match, that puts a huge demand on the aerobic system.
So even though judo matches are relatively short, cardiovascular endurance is still critical.
Absolutely. Another interesting finding is that active recovery between matches, things like light jogging or stretching, can help athletes clear lactate faster, which can actually improve performance in later bouts.
Wow, so every detail matters.
It really does. Even grip strength, which we talked about earlier, has been shown to decline after a match, highlighting the importance of grip endurance training.
It's incredible how much goes into preparing for a judo match.
It is.
All this information is so valuable for coaches and athletes.
Absolutely.
It underscores the need for training programs that specifically target the physiological demands of judo.
Exactly. And these findings also highlight the importance of pacing during a match.
Right. You mentioned how judo athletes seem to regulate their efforts to avoid getting completely exhausted.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Can you tell us more about that?
It really speaks to their mental discipline and tactical awareness.
Okay.
Studies have shown that athletes tend to avoid pushing themselves to their absolute limit throughout a match.
That's interesting.
It's a smart strategy.
Right.
They need to conserve energy, make good decisions, and be ready to capitalize on opportunities when they present themselves.
So it's almost like a chess match,
Exactly.
where every move is calculated and conserving energy is key to winning in the long run.
You got it.
This is giving me a whole new appreciation for the mental side of judo.
And that's where our deep dive takes us next. We're going to explore the motivational factors, the psychological strengths, the mental toughness that these athletes develop to excel at the highest level.
I'm ready. I want to uncover the secrets of their mental game.
Let's do it.
This is turning out to be a truly eye-opening look at what it takes to become an Olympic judo champion. Okay, so we've talked about the physical demands, how the sport's evolved, even the strategy involved in a judo match.
Right. We've covered a lot of ground.
Now it's time to dive into the mental game. You know, the heart and soul of what makes these athletes so incredible.
I agree. The mental side of judo is often underestimated,
Yeah,
but it's absolutely crucial for success at the highest level.
for sure. We touched on this before, but I'd love to hear more about what drives these athletes, what keeps them going.
Remember that research we discussed on Olympic judo athletes?
Yeah.
The one that found a connection between how much they train and their overall satisfaction.
Yes. It seemed like the more they trained, the more fulfilled they were.
Exactly. It suggests their motivation runs deeper than just winning medals or getting recognition.
Right.
These athletes seem to genuinely enjoy the training process itself.
It's like they find meaning in it.
It is. They're intrinsically motivated, driven by a love for the sport and a desire to constantly improve.
That makes sense. It's that inner fire that fuels their dedication and helps them push through challenges.
And don't forget the immense pressure they face competing on the world stage.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other level.
The weight of expectations on their shoulders is enormous. The mental strength they need to handle that pressure is remarkable.
It's almost superhuman. To stay focused, calm, and strategic under that kind of scrutiny is incredible.
It's a testament to years of disciplined training, not just of their bodies, but their minds too.
So they're training their minds as well as their bodies.
Exactly. They've learned to control their emotions, manage their energy, and make those split-second decisions under pressure.
It sounds like they build up this mental armor that helps them navigate the complexities of competition.
That's a great way to put it. They develop mental resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks.
And stay focused.
Right, stay composed even when things get tough.
I'm really starting to see why judo is considered not just a sport, but an art form.
It really is.
It requires this perfect balance of physical skill, strategy, and mental strength.
You said it. And the amazing thing about judo is that these elements are constantly evolving and interacting.
Yeah.
As we learn more about the science behind judo, we can develop even better training methods to help athletes reach their full potential.
This deep dive has been such a journey. It's totally changed how I see judo.
I'm glad to hear that.
It highlights the incredible dedication, resilience, and mental fortitude of these amazing athletes.
And with all the advances in sports science and technology, I have no doubt we'll see even more incredible achievements in judo.
It's exciting to think about.
It is. It's a sport that truly represents the pursuit of excellence in every aspect of human performance.
So well said. Thanks so much for taking us on this journey into the world of Olympic judo training.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been truly eye-opening.
Until next time, keep exploring and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to look deeper and appreciate the amazing complexity of judo.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a sport that truly embodies the power of human potential.